Jesus basically hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. It was the day that I was saved, and I remember specifically how it happened, but I started attending. We were going to get a divorce if I didn't go to church with Mary Ellen, so I went to her church to avoid getting a divorce, and the pastor, Mary Ellen would talk to the pastor and people there, and I would always leave right after the service started. So I never would meet with the pastor or talk to him, and he wanted to talk to me. So one day he called to me and said, "I'd like to talk to you." So I made an appointment with him. So Mary Ellen and I went and talked to him for 3 hours in his office one day. He answered the questions to the best of his ability, and when we left, he said, "Would you like to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior at this point?" And I said, "No, I'm not ready for that." And really, I didn't think much about it. I had to go back to work. And I left, and I'm driving down Clayton Road. I remember the road, and I remember the spot. And all of a sudden it hit me that I was a sinner and I couldn't save myself. And Jesus died and went to the cross for me. Tears started streaming down my eyes, and I had to pull over. I couldn't drive. Forgiveness. He forgave me, and he died for me. And when I think about that, I think about that to this day daily, that a sinner like me that was a brawler, an alcoholic, not a good dad, everything bad about me, it didn't matter. He accepted me, and he loved me, and he saved me. And I think about that every day, thankfully. My name is Greg Biebel. I come from the Midwest. I grew up Catholic. I went to a Catholic grade school, high school, and college. I met my wife in college, Catholic as well, and we have 4 daughters, 13 grandchildren. I was a roofing contractor back in the Midwest, and I was also ill-tempered many times, and I was an alcoholic for a number of years. That's pretty much my background.
Okay. And so that life leading up to meeting Christ, what would you say that you put your hope in prior to placing your hope in Jesus or knowing Jesus?
Well, I would definitely say I put hope in myself, my works. I was a good Catholic. I went to confession. I took communion. I tried to cross all the T's and dot all the I's with my life. I was a sinner, which I really wasn't too much aware of back then. I just I engulfed myself in my business, and I drank because it was stressful. And my wife ran the show at home, and I produced an income. She produced the motherhood and the work at home, and it seemed to work for a while.
Okay, so you were staying busy, providing and working, and putting your hope in your ability to check the boxes and be good in maybe the world's eyes.
That's exactly what I did. I compared myself with other people. I thought, well, I'm as good or better than XYZ, so, I'm okay.
Yeah. And when did you first start to experience Jesus pursuing you and stirring in your heart?
Well, my wife started attending a Christian church. I believe it was a Presbyterian church, and she started reading the Bible, and she would ask me questions. One specific question she asked me, did I know that Jesus had siblings, actual brothers and sisters? And I said, no, that can't be. And she said, no, it's in the Bible. And she showed me in the Bible, and I thought, well, why didn't I ever know this? Why didn't somebody tell me this? It stirred me a little bit, and she said, Greg, there's nowhere in the Bible where it says you can't eat meat on Fridays, and there's no mortal sin involved where you would go to hell if you died of mortal sin. And she's telling me all these things that I learned as a kid and took with me up until that time. And I never read the Bible. I heard the Gospels and the epistles at church, but I never read the Bible. So that sparked my thought process a little bit. Again, I was busy at work, and so I kind of let it slide, but I did remember that.
Okay. And as you felt like the Lord maybe was pursuing you through your wife and through his word, what kind of challenges and struggles did you face as Christ began opening your heart?
Well, I just felt that I was more and more deceived by the education that I received at school. I just thought, I didn't get the whole picture. There was things left out, and again, I was busy at work and trying to provide for a family, so that was in the back of my mind. I didn't act on anything. It just, if anything, I just thought, well, I didn't get the true picture growing up, and that would be the only thing that I can think of to answer that question.
Okay. And so when would you say you met or experienced Jesus, the real Jesus, for the first time?
Well, I would have to say, in all honesty, that Jesus basically hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. It was the day that I was saved, and I remember specifically how it happened, but I started attending. We were going to get a divorce if I didn't go to church with Mary Ellen, so I went to her church to avoid getting a divorce, and the pastor, Mary Ellen would talk to the pastor and people there, and I would always leave right after the service started. So I never would meet with the pastor or talk to him, and he wanted to talk to me. So one day he called me and said, "I'd like to talk to you." So I made an appointment with him. So Mary Ellen and I went and talked to him for 3 hours in his office one day, and he gave me the gospel message, and he asked me questions like, I want to know where dinosaurs were in the Bible. Where did they fit in? And he answered the questions to the best of his ability. And when we left, he said, "Would you like to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior at this point?" And I said, "No, I'm not ready for that." And really, I didn't think much about it. I had to go back to work. And I left, and I'm driving down Clayton Road. I remember the road. I remember the spot. And all of a sudden, it hit me that I was a sinner, and I couldn't save myself. And Jesus died and went to the cross for me. Tears started streaming down my eyes, and I had to pull over. I couldn't drive. And that's when I met Jesus. That's right.
And what was it about him that was so compelling?
Forgiveness. He forgave me, and he died for me. And when I think about that, I think about that to this day daily, that a sinner like me that was a brawler, an alcoholic, not a good dad, everything bad about me, it didn't matter. He accepted me, and he loved me, and he saved me. And I think about that every day, and thankful every day.
So there's a weight to that emotional experience.
Very much so. My wife didn't believe it at first. I came home and told her that I was saved, and she didn't believe it. And the next night I came home and told her I was saved. And then a highlight of that experience happened when we went out to dinner, a couple months later, and I ordered a pitcher of beer, because I always ordered a pitcher of beer when I went out to dinner. We only went to places that have pitchers of beer. And she mentioned that now that I accepted Jesus, don't I think I should cut back on alcohol? And I said, you're right. And there was times in my life where I wanted to quit and never happened. I said, you're right. I pushed the pitcher away and said, I'll never drink again. And God took that away from me. I never had a desire after that point. He knew, I guess, that I wouldn't do it on my own. So he took that away from me, that desire for alcohol. That was the last day in 1990. I had my last drink. Never again.
Wow.
Yeah, he took it away.
And so when would you say you said yes to Jesus and submitted to his authority in your life?
Well, I got discipled. My wife and I got discipled with another couple by our pastor for 3 years, a couple hours a week on a Friday afternoon. I took off from work, and it was a learning process. I remember shortly after I became saved, I went to the pastor. I set up a meeting, and I went to Jerry. I said, "Jerry, I don't believe I'm saved." And he sat there, and I went through what I was doing and all that. He just sat there quietly and shook his head. And when we were done with the conversation, he said, "Well, Greg, you can go home now." I said, "Jerry, I don't think I'm saved." And he said, "Greg, you're not going to be sinless. You're going to sin less. This is a process. You were never aware of your sin before. Now you're aware of it, and you were quite the sinner, and you see how your life was and how it is trying to change. That's all. You're fine. Go home." So I went home, and it was a process. To this day, it's a process. I still sometimes get angry at things, but I'm able to get joy out of problems now because of what Jesus did for me.
That's a cool radical change. And so how would you define your identity has changed since that moment where you said yes
Well,
to Jesus?
a conversation rarely goes by where I won't bring up God and how he changed me. People that know me, I don't talk about it much. It's hard to get the opportunity to witness people. I'm not good at that, but we have neighbors that are unsaved, and we try to invite them to Easter service, and they don't want to go. And Mary Ellen said, well, maybe we ought to just shake the dust off our feet and move on. I said, no, we're in process. We're next door to these people. We have to live a life that exemplifies Jesus. And if they accept, fine. We plant the seed, and if God waters it and makes it grow, fine. If he doesn't, we're going to do our part. So I'm willing to have an interview like this. I'm willing to sit down and talk about Jesus. And the best testimony that I can ever give is my testimony. Nobody can refute that. Nobody can tell me, and I've had miracles in my life that Jesus has done, saving me, taking alcohol away. I was scheduled to be on a plane flight one time, and we had a hailstorm. I had to cancel. The plane went down. People were killed. The guy that took my place was killed. I wasn't saved yet. God had a purpose for me. So my relatives think I became leaving Jesus. All I would talk about was God, and here the alcoholic that drank everybody under the table quit drinking and talked about Jesus. So they thought that I was weird until time went on and they realized it was a real thing.
That's amazing. How does your relationship with Jesus affect your life now?
Oh my gosh. For the better. I think about him. I'm thankful for him. I try to live my life as an example of Jesus. It's just completely 180 degrees from where I was before. And like I said, every day in my quiet time, I'm thankful for him saving me. Just a wretch like me, he did save.
That's beautiful. Well, Greg, I really appreciate you sharing your story and testifying of what God has done in your heart. It's a beautiful story, and we just appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Glad to do it.